hello. Hello, everyone, and Happy New Year. This is the January 1st, 2024 edition of Systems Lab Live. Excited to be here with you all today. Well, we are here. What can we say? We are excited to be here on this most auspicious occasion that is January 1st. It is a brand new year, the first of the year. How have you been spending New Year's Day? Well, my friends, it's been especially productive for myself. But before we begin with all of that, please go ahead and put in the comments. Put in the comments your name, where you're from, what you're working on. Listen, it is the beginning of the year. So I know people are working on all sorts of things, the goals, the work. People are going to be returning back to the office quite soon. And so I'm telling you, this is the time. Now, one of the things that I think is really important for us to also understand about goal setting and whatever it is that you do, folks, take your time. Be intentional. Don't take too long, but really hear from God. One of the things I talked about in my Instagram post was it was a January 1st, a new year, kind of new year, new me vibes. But really, I wanted to explain to people about the importance of being intentional about creating systems around your life and what you want about what you want to do. And I think that's so important because oftentimes we hear a lot about winging it, about not having structure or not liking it. And I think there's a resistance to that. And I don't think it's always natural. There's a difference between, I'm free spirited, or, I thrive off of, you know, what I thrive off of not feeling like I'm stuck or stuffed. I guess stuffed is really more appropriate term. But I'll tell you this, people. I think really what's happened is that we've had too many, I believe, poor definitions of setting goals, creating strategies, systems, and things like that, that we have yet to, until I think in recent years, I think we've yet to allow people to explore what it means to have freedom within the systems that you create. So I believe, and I pointed this out in my post, that there is a lot to be said about structure and order. Structure and order. And it's so evident in the Bible about that. And so I point out some things like, I talk about Noah's Ark, I talk about Joshua, I talk about, what do I talk about? Ezra and Nehemiah. It's all throughout the Bible about order and structure, and essentially systems, and how God operates. So check out that post on Instagram, because I think this would really help to enlighten you on all these different things when we start talking about our goals and what we want to do for the year. Because it's more than just time management strategies or like I got to stick on a schedule. There's a more of a intentionality behind the way that you view structure, order, and time, and all of these things. And I actually have a couple of live streams that I've done all about biblical principles of time management, what I have learned about time, what the Lord has shown me about it. So you want to, I can put those in the comments. That's what I'll do. I will pin those things in the comments. In fact, one thing I'll do as you guys are kind of putting in your location and all that stuff, I will just bring it up in a different browser and begin to, I think I can add a comment on here, right? One can do that. Live comment. Yeah, I can put this in here. Or maybe I can put it. Okay. I think I know what I'm doing. Super funny. Okay, y'all. Let me also bring up my other Coda document that has some notes for today's session. Now, we're excited. I'm excited. I don't know who we is because it's just me. I'm excited about this particular month's live stream. We are talking all about communication. This is communication 201. There are levels to this. And so we are really focusing in on this theme for a few different reasons. One of the reasons is because when we talk about the future of work and the digital environment, the digital first work environment that is one of the core areas that's still a hot topic, that's still something that organizations and teams are figuring out, best communicate. That is really a core theme that is still something that people are continuing to figure out between apps and tools and frameworks and strategies. How do we go about creating effective communication within our teams and organizations? So, as I pull up this Coda doc, I want to ask you guys in a live stream, what are you all in terms of communication? What have you all experienced as of late? What have you guys experienced as of late? What does the live streaming, what does that look like for you all? What does that particular mean? I'm sorry, y'all. I'm just trying to fix the camera. Okay. I think we got it. Okay. I felt I was like little. I felt like I was little. Okay. Let me bring this up. Okay. Yep. There are levels to this internal communication. And, another point I think that is so crucial that we can bring up is that it is really an interesting thing to kind of watch and see, right? The fact of the matter is that the what we do on a daily basis is highly dependent on communication. It's highly dependent on communication. And so what we mean by that is, and I'll bring up this blog post too that we can talk through as well. And maybe we'll probably do a particular live stream on that as well. But I think my latest blog post, the daily practice blog, if you go to ashleyschuler.com, and there's a second little bucket branch thing that says the daily practice blog. And then it says there's levels to this. And inside of this blog post, inside of it, we talk about these three aspects of communication. We're talking about it from the perspective of conflict resolution, project tasks and workflows, and handling change, resilience, and adaptability. So we have a really core focus this month, and probably we'll be weaving this theme to within some other focus points as well. But when I talk about communication, it's not just written and verbal. We're talking about how is communication threaded and embedded into the life of the work that we're doing, from how we handle conflict resolutions to our project tasks and workflows, and through how we handle change and adaptability and resiliency. So I'm very much excited about that. I think that's going to be super super important that we kind of walk through this aspect of communication in such an intentional way. And so when we think about this aspect of the future of work, we're talking about it as it relates to team structures, global, remote, hybrid. What's happening, Michelle? Great to see you. Happy New Year. And this month, as we think about there's levels to this communication 201, I want to dive a bit deeper into how communication is going to be such a necessary tool for you to go deeper within the strategy, to go deeper within how you execute your work efficiently. And so a lot of focus on how you can communicate and, all the different strategies, because there's going to be a whole lot of blog posts and things about all of this. You're going to see a lot of factors driving this is the emphasis on new technology tools, employee well-being, hybrid work models, the ease of remote onboarding and integration, emphasis on also cybersecurity, how secure our information is, and then establishing new team cultures. So so all things when we talk about, you know, this communication factor is driven by all of these particular points, right? So one thing that I'd love for you all to do is to share this live stream out with 3 people. That would be fantastic for you to do that. Love that. Just share the love. Just share the love. Um, Now, before we jump into how we're rethinking internal communications and whatnot, I wanted just to announce too. I will be releasing the date for the new podcast season, Built from Scratch. I recorded 3 episodes today, which I was really glad because the holiday season it was just overtaking all the things. There was lots of activities, and I needed to get into a frame of mind to record. Always got to get into a frame of mind, but I wanted today to be the day. Was like, this is on my list. This is on my ClickUp list. This is the thing that I'm going to get done, which is record the 3 episodes. We have a lot. I've done at least 5 solo episodes, 1, 2, 3 interviews, and then I have a few more slotted. The Built from Scratch series is all about how we as project leaders build from scratch, from projects, programs, and initiatives. How do we do that? What are some of the best practices? I'm interviewing some of my favorite people who have built businesses as well from scratch. So I got about 3 more people that I'm going to be interviewing soon. But my episodes will be coming out first. So we're going to have 5 episodes of just me and you. And then we will go to the second half of the season and we're going to learn from people who are building from scratch. It's going to be really cool because you'll get some really cool storytelling from a business leader's perspective on what they're building, how they're building it, and everything that comes with it, the highs and the lows. We have some really great stories for you all coming up. So yes, it's exciting, Michelle. It really is. So shout out to love always seeing Michelle around. Shout out to the women of project management. That is our most favoriteest community. I think it's probably our favorite community. And so we're gonna be rocking and rolling in 2024. It's gonna be a good time on that as well. All right, let's think through this, people. Let's talk a little bit. Some key takeaways that we want to talk about. We're going to start rethinking our internal communications for 2024. We're talking about some of the 4 pillars of communication, what we should be thinking about when it comes to our core elements of communication. And this is also, you know, some of the things I've taken from my own experience, and then also to what the conversation is in the streets. What are the conversations in the streets? And let me bring up GoodNotes. I think what we'll be doing for those that are more visual, that want to see the live stream portion of this on YouTube and LinkedIn Live, I'm going to be using GoodNotes to just doing some more illustrations. I think it's always helpful. It's always helpful. Oh, I know what I want to do. Actually, want to open up my GoodNotes. All right. We're rocking and rolling here tonight. Okay, great. Let me open this up and then I can share the screen because I do want to share this statistic that I found. I got to find out where I found it from first. I want to cite the source. I want to cite the source. I want to say it was, I'll see if it's in another tab, but window. Is this it? Okay. Now I'm going to go try to find, because it should be, it's so disappointing not closing out your tabs, but here's where we are, folks. But there was a statistic I found that 72% of business leaders reported an increase in 2023 in their team's productivity as a result of effective communication. And this is during 2023, right? I think, when I was kind of looking for some stats about this, I think what is interesting about defining effective communication is I think what we have to what we have to do is really start looking at defining what's effective for your team and your organization. You know, I know for certain that effective communication is really uh, just this manner of thinking through how does your team effectively communicate? What are the tools? What are the processes? You know what I'm saying? What are these things that, are really going to help move the needle when it comes to the effective communication piece of it. So, I think first and foremost that start thinking through yourself effective communication. So I want to do this. Let me write this out because I think this is really important. I would do this. I would first define what does effective communication mean for you? Because while I think it's good to have these tips and whatnot, I think it's going to be really, really crucial and really, really vital that we begin to look at. Oh, okay. This is what I'm looking to do. Okay. Perfect. I think we got it now, folks. Am I showing the right one? Mhm. Did we do this right, people? Hmm. Hold on one second, y'all. Okay. Okay. Oh, that's too funny. I was like, what is going on here? Okay, we're back in business, everyone. We're back in business. I was like, what is going on? What's happening? PM mindset. Um, okay, we're just talking about effective communication. Okay, and then I was trying to share with you all. Too funny. I was just trying to share with you all my good note that I had on this. And so okay, that's exactly what I'm trying to do. So hold on. I'm gonna stop share really quickly, and then we're going to present. And then what's the window? No, I think okay. This is fine. I think this is what we'll look to do. We'll share this window and share it. Okay, we're back. Defining effective communication. That's what we want to do, folks. And yeah, so 72% of business leaders reported an increase in their team's productivity as a result of effective communication during 2022. Okay. And so my my particular point that I wanted to emphasize on this was, all right, great. Like, this is an interesting stat, right? But let us be mindful that we want to ensure that we are defining first and foremost what effective communication is for yourself. Like what does that mean? Now, when we talk about what is an internal comm strategy, I want to put a point of emphasis on this is internal communication strategy focuses on how you as a project leader are interacting with your team as it pertains to the business goals, the strategic objective, projects, and day-to-day work. I mentioned this when I was recording earlier today, how the role of the PM is not just focused strictly on the projects themselves. How now project leaders are being called upon to say, we need someone to manage a particular process or processes within the entire team or organization. So it's not just I'm working on project X or project Y or project ZDW. No, now it's like we need help with, the marketing. Hey, but I'm not the part of marketing. How did I get here? This is the evolving role as a PM. So definitely, my second point is to understand, hey, when we talk about this internal communication strategy, this is going to expand beyond, all right, which comment should be in Slack versus ClickUp. You may be called, and you probably are being called to then really create a process that is streamlined, that goes from cross-functional team to cross-functional team, from executive all the way down to, you know, engineering department. Who knows, right? But the stakeholders that, and how they connect to the communication modes and the models and the objectives and all those types of things, you're really going to have to think through a little critically about that, right? So what I'm the point of emphasis for an IC, which is an internal communication strategy, is team and flow of info. That's really the point of emphasis, is the team and the flow of info. Okay. Super important. It's the team and the flow of input. All right. Should update in a minute as well. So I like that. I like that a lot. So when we think through that, I want you all to really start to think through from your perspective. Talk to me. Talk to me about your flow of information. What does that look like? Put some comments in there in the chat about that, about what that flow of information is. And I think that will be really helpful and useful as you think through that. Now, when it comes to some of these core elements of communication, I'd love to hear from you all in the chat. What are some of the core elements of communication that you have on your side? Yeah, what does that look like? What does that look like? What are the four core elements of communication? I'm going to write that down for you all. In the chat, I'd love to hear that. What does that look like for you all? Some of the four core elements of communication. Don't be shy. Hey, Lisa. Great to see you, Lisa. It's always wonderful to see you. I love it. Hey, Ashley. How are you? Happy New Year. So, four elements of internal communications. So, establishing trust and security. This is all about, as you all are heading back into the office, that you all are working with, excuse me, new people, or starting to reestablish boundaries, right? That is that was the word of the year, I think, for 2023 for many people. But especially when it comes to the great work that people are doing or are looking to do, this is a prime opportunity to really focus in on trust and security. Trust with information. Trust meaning, can I trust you to lead? Can I trust you with transparency? Okay. This also, gets down into breaking down silos and transparency, trust and security. I'm sure that was not on your bingo card, when we were talking about what are some of these layers of internal communication. Trust, now more than ever in 2024, is going to be paramount into the work that you're doing. Think through that, let that sink in, let that sink in. Again, I know there's a lot of emphasis on apps and tools, and we'll get into that this month. I'm not saying it's not important, but we need to proportion out. We got to proportion out all of these elements, right? Because as you begin to think through what are these conversations looking like when we're reestablishing trust in security with our communication. And what I mean by security, I'm really meaning also where information is stored. We will get to that point in a couple minutes, but it's the actual securing of information. Like, where does information lie? Is it secure? Who has access to it? All of those types of things. And you know when you are working, and let's say from an entrepreneurship standpoint, one thing that you should absolutely think through is when people you're working with, when you're talking about accessing of files, when you're talking about who needs to know what on which basis, you want to get a really firm understanding of who should have access to your information. We're talking about links, we're talking about loose Google Docs, loose Google workspaces, and Google Drives, and all those types of things. You just want to be very clear and upfront about who needs access to what. Because I would think, this is just me. I would think that if I was on the receiving end, meaning if I'm working with somebody, I do not expect people to just say, just give me your Dropbox and just let me go off into the wind. I don't expect that at all. I think you have to, unless it is already established about the type of work that you'll need to do, to say, all right, here's a few folders that you'll need access to. Anything else, let me know. But having those type of conversations up front, but also doing some of the pre-work yourself, it's going to save you a whole bunch of time. So prior to onboarding anyone, prior to collaborating with everyone, just just be clear on who needs what type of information, who needs to be collaborative in certain spaces and places. And that, my friends, really does help you when it comes to the apps and the things that you sign up for, who's a guest and who's a member. That's a huge thing, especially within ClickUp, but also probably Asana too. So Coda too. I'm just naming all my apps, but that's a huge thing of like, all right, I work with certain contractors. They don't need to be a full member, but I need to give them access, because again, giving access, especially on the platforms, it'll cost you money, adding a member, all those things. So I just want you to think through that, because I don't think we talk about the security of information when we talk about communication. Huh? Make sense? I hope so. What else do we want to talk about tonight with that? And for sure, if you have any comments, please sure to leave them or ask a question. You send me a direct message. I'd love that. Uh, lead with the people, serve the people, lead and serve the people. Lead and serve the people. What does that mean? What does that mean, Ashley? Lead and serve the people. So, and I talked about this today when we in the episode, I have an episode entitled "We Are Family." After the Sledge sisters, we are family. I got all my sisters and me, all of that good stuff. But we talk about leading with the people. All right, leading and serving people. Now, this is something my friends, I work on this a lot. Shakira, hey, so great to see you. I work on this a lot, people. How we serve people. How do we lead? Where do we lead? What is our intentionality with people? Okay? Super important. I think it's good to be self-aware. I think it's good to know your triggers. It's good to know where you handle yourself and how you handle yourself. Why do certain things rise up in your spirit? You have to go deep with that. We have to go deep with that. And there's a couple different ways and strategies you can do that. You can always, have a trusted friend, a resource, a confidant. You can also go with the Holy Spirit I do that often as well. So I go in, combo, boom, boom, boom. I don't leave myself to my own devices to figure out things alone. But serving the people is critical in this hour when we talk about communication. Serving the people. That means that you do not keep core information from people. All right. That means you already, have a level at this point. You have a level where you have established, that level of communication and that relationship with those individuals that you work on with your team members. Yeah, leading, serving. How what else can you do with that? Anyone have any ideas? I'm a big proponent of using tools, DISC and or strength finders. Use that within my own organization. Within my own organization, I've used it in other places and spaces where you can learn a little bit more about yourself. Now, it's not defining who you are, people. So it's just a tool. All right. But it's really interesting to learn how you think and how you operate and what you do. And so, my friends, the heart of the matter is this, is that being able to relate to people, being able to understand how people think and act and operate is going to be very crucial when we're talking about elevating our level of communication and establishing a internal communication strategy. Mm, This is good stuff. So the first thing we talked about was trust and security, right? Trusting, being able to be a trustworthy individual, establishing trust within your team members, getting to know them. Security of information too. Crucial. Who has access to your stuff? Who doesn't need access to the stuff? Sometimes people only need to know things on a need to know basis. How many of us have gotten these emails that said, "Hey, I heard X, Y, and Z." And I always say to myself, I know what you heard. I know what you may have heard, but let me tell you, I may not always respond with what you're thinking about. Huh? But it's always good to ask questions. Where did you hear this information? Huh? What was said in context? I'm always good at that because sometimes there are some holes in which people are looking for information, and they could be looking for because they are working on something. Sometimes the way in which people are asking questions can be challenging, but hey, it's all par for the course, people. This is why you constantly work on ways to improve your communication and your team's communication. Leading and serving. What are some ways, people, that you're thinking about leading and serving in this particular season when it comes to internal communication? What does that look like for you in terms of your leadership capabilities? What does that look like? If you don't have access to some of these personal and professional development tools, that's okay. That's okay. But where are some ways that you can think through how you are leading and serving with people? It's always a good question to ask. It's always a good question to ask. And when we think about building an internal communication strategy, now here's something to think about. You may be in charge of doing that, or you may not be, right? You may be someone that is helping or assisting in the process. Nothing wrong with that. But thinking through, are you going to be the one really leading the change? Or can you also be the person that's also influencing the decision maker? Now, depending on which position that you're in, there's still an advantage because at the heart of the matter, at the heart of the matter, at the end of the day, it's really about getting the team to a place and space where the communication is streamlined. You don't have too much friction, you know, people are feeling seen and heard. You're reducing the bottlenecks and all those types of things. And also, I think it's really important when we talk about when we talk about the core elements and what does it mean to establish a internal communication strategy? You know, you want to make sure that there is a you're connecting lines. There's connecting lines to the business goals and objectives that people understand too, where the particular information is held. Okay. And that's going to be our last point. But I want to get to point 3, which is focus on clarity with your message. How you craft your message matters. How you craft what you say matters. Okay. So there's a difference between sending a text message to a friend that says, "Hey, what's going on? You remember that thing? Blah, 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 blah." Versus maybe you're in a different type of setting and you just send an email, say, "Can you just send that document?" Well, which document? Mm, right? Or when you send out an email and you just say, you know, I don't know, what's something I've done and people haven't understood what I was saying. No, I've sent emails where I've asked for something and someone's like, "Well, I don't know what you're talking about." I didn't provide enough context to what someone was looking for. Context always matters, right? What does that look like? All right, let's write that down. For those of you that are thinking through like what you writing down, especially the Instagram peeps. I'm on YouTube and Instagram, sorry, in YouTube and LinkedIn Live, and I have my good notes up. So we write down some notes. Okay. So craft your message. Craft your message. Context matters, people. Context matters. So it's always about, what is the goal of your message? Okay. What's the goal? Who's involved? And also what do you need? What do you need? Ow, ow. This is some good stuff, folks. So, craft your message. It's all about the context, folks. Okay? What's the goal? Who's involved? What do you need? Hmm? I think it's instrumental, folks. It'll save you a lot of time to just a couple minutes. Now, something that I think that is a really cool best practice, especially when you're communicating inside of Slack and you are into the whole async communication aspect, which I think most organizations and teams should have some element of asyncness that's going on. But excuse me, one really good pro tip is that if you are setting up your Slack channel and you have like a project, we call a project channel, that's what I'm trying to say. You will want to provide some examples of how someone should like write an example of a question or some sort of comment or something that they're looking for. And they have the Canvas, is it called? I think in Slack, I think it's called Canvas, and they have something called Canvas in Slack. And hold on, I just wanted to pull Slack up really quickly on the iPad so I just make sure. I think that's what it's called. It's called Canvas. I think it's called Canvas. I believe so. So it's called Canvas. And when you're inside of Canvas, you can, inside of the channels, you can go and okay, there we go. That's what I meant to do. You can create like a little note. Yes, and it's called Canvas. Thank you so much. You can go in and then start to create like a sample message of how someone would go and write a question or a comment or make a statement or whatever the case is. Or if you need feedback for something. So state, what the purpose is. What do you need feedback on? And also, when do you need feedback? Huh? When do you need it? Because I'll read something in Slack and then I'll just move on my way. I'll just go about my business, right? So that's why it's really important when you go into the crafting of your message and the context that matters. All right, all right. This is good stuff, y'all. I hope that I'm even learning from my own self. This is some really good stuff. Um, Lastly, this is really good, y'all. Lastly, we want to talk about leveraging technology, leveraging tech. How do we leverage tech? We talked a lot about, some ways and some approaches and some strategies, but I don't want to leave out the technology piece because, again, in terms of building out this internal communication strategy and the system for doing it, leveraging technology is super important, and it'll be something that you will want to focus on. You'll want to focus on this. You'll want to focus on this greatly. So, what do we mean when we talk about leveraging technology? I think there's a lot to be said about app overload between the project management tools, where you store information, your messaging tools, or email. It's quite overwhelming to think about, all right, where should it be centralized and where should it be stored? And this is why knowledge management is really crucial for project managers. I tell you, this is what I'm talking about. This is going to be the game changer for 2024 is knowledge management. This is something that I have been studying. I even got a book on it that I'm going to start to read. But knowledge management is really, really key. Okay, this is a process. If For those that don't know, knowledge management is a process of acquiring, preserving, and sharing information throughout a project. So where do we store the information? Where do we preserve it? Where do we share the information? This is why I believe project management playbooks are going to be instrumental in 2024. Those of you that are familiar with project management plans, right? It's the big old Word document. It's like 15 or so pages, at least the ones that I know I used to create. They used to be very long. They had the vision, they had the scope, they had the schedule management, they had the risk management, they had like all the sections, all the stakeholders. I remember this one project when I did it, with that we had our project management plan. It had like 25 names on it. And I began to look at that list and I said, I don't know how you go about mapping out who gets what information. So I just made an agreement that there was only going to be like the core people who need the information, who are really doing the managing of the work, right? Those people, they'll be the ones that I'll communicate with. Those will be the ones that I can be able to correspond with. Everyone else got the general emails, the general updates, and everything. But I was like, there's a lot of people. But knowledge management is key. Where are you storing your information? Where do you store your information? I'm talking about lessons learned. I'm talking about where do people go and reference the current project information. And then as you move forward and work out other projects, where can people go back and learn from learn from past projects? Do we have that? What does that even look like on an organization basis, right? On an organizational basis. And so begin to think through, from a knowledge management perspective, how do you go about building out a database that has that information, or a repository of that information? There's a lot of knowledge management softwares out there. There's different types of techniques that are out there within organizations, but specifically, there's something to be said about going in through and looking at projects from years past and saying, oh, remember we worked on this? Remember we worked on that? From an entrepreneurship perspective, someone may say, yeah, we got that. That's a client testimonial. Beep, 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 back up that truck. No. So that's a piece of it. But when we're talking about, from a CEO perspective, there's definitely going to be something that you will need to have. I don't know when you'll need to have it, but you'll need to have it sometime, right? Where you will need to have a place and space where you can look at everything from 2021, 2020, 2019, whatever it is that you've worked on, and have it in a place of space where the project vision, the scope, how much money you spent, did you go over budget? What else is some good project information, Michelle? What else do we do? Lessons learned, all the things. There's going to need to be a place and space where you need to go back to go look at it. Now, and I'll put a asterisk on you as a CEO needing to go back. You may need to go back because you may also need to look at, from an organizational and strategy perspective, what have you worked on? What worked? What didn't? You may want to, you'll probably need this to onboard other types of team members, and they can go back and sort of look at these project case studies, and putting that into a system is instrumental. And there's many tools to actually do this, right? There's so many different types of tools to be able to do this. It's just going to depend on what you kind of want to do with that. There's knowledge management software that's out there. You may consider some of this will be some of this no code software that you'll hear a lot about. You'll hear a lot about Coda. That's one of my favorites. I don't know if I would use Support Quality Data Analysis. That's exactly it right there. Let me look up really quickly. Knowledge management software. Because where could you, I think there's something called Get Guru, something like that, maybe. I have to look it up. Yeah, knowledge management. Here we go. Software. Ooh. There's definitely, because I would not store it in a project management tool, because you'll move for sure. A company will move. Interesting. Something called Bloomfire, Intercom. So when you have some of these apps like ClickUp or Asana, or some of these apps that have like answers to your questions, that's also a way to create a knowledge management type of database. Guru knowledge base, Guru. That's another good one. Let's see. Where are some of the other ones? Let's see. Yeah. HubSpot knowledge based software. That would be interesting. Help customers. Yeah. And I think this is a good mini exercise that we're doing, because there is the external piece of it where you allow your customers to go in, if you have a product or a service, to go and build out a database where they can get in-depth knowledge of different types of articles and things. An FAQ can also serve as a knowledge management base too, as well. I would say for memberships and community, I think if you have a knowledge management database that has information about, how do you onboard, and, all these types of things, it would need to be categorized. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. It looks like Guru may be also a really good tool. You can organize your team's information by departments. So yeah, that the aspect of knowledge management, that's a huge organizational wide initiative that would definitely need to take time, the proper setup, all of these types of things. Something called Document 360 is $99 for a startup plan. And Knowledge Base helps you organize, manage, and share knowledge resources within your organization. Yeah, I think, dependent on, from an entrepreneurship perspective, you'll want to think through, depending on your product, your services, how complex things are. You'll need to think through what is the appropriate mechanism that you'll need to execute a knowledge management database. You may not need to invest in software from a pricing standpoint initially. It may not necessarily be like a huge investment, but like I said, there's a lot of no code tools out there, Notion, things like that. So yeah, this is a great discussion. I'm really delved deeper on what triggers to recommend, what's relevant and what's not. That's it. That's exactly it. So those are my key points for tonight. You know, as we take off into 2024, as we start thinking through internal communications strategy and what does that look like, you want to make sure that you're establishing trust and security, how you're leading and serving people, focusing on the clarity and context of your message, and then also leveraging technology. Those are the 4 points. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for hanging out with me. I'm excited about what is to come. And yeah, that's it. We will be back next time. I'll be back next week, and we'll have a great opportunity to talk about how to navigate hybrid team culture. Thank you so much for tuning in, you all. Make sure to share a live stream on YouTube to your friends, and we'll talk soon. All right. Have a good one. Bye, y'all.